we knew a year ago that we would be getting 5 characters in season 5, and they showed 4 of those characters, and 2 of them were showcased yesterday in Oro and Akira. What did we say we were gonna say? Akira, is that right? Not Akira.
Akira, yeah,
Akira.
Akira, yeah.
Watch us flip
We're
flop
struggling over
all
the
episode long. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
we're just struggling over the pronunciation of this stuff. If anyone knows exactly how it's pronounced and really knows, and didn't hear from Tim, their friend down the street on how it is, let us know in the comments down below. Please comment on how, if we're doing it correctly. But
Yes.
yeah.
But also the 5th character was not revealed. They first talked about him in August of last year. It's been a whole year, and they revealed who it was, a brand new character who has never been in Street Fighter before. Luke. Is that how it said? Luke? No.
Definitely Luke. Yeah.
Luke. We got Luke,
Mm.
who is the brand new
Mm.
fighter. He's turning heads, and there's some little bits of trepidation about him, but for the most part, I think people are really excited and energized by him, not only by his design, his visuals. That's where people kind of are like, I could take it or leave it. But the way he seems to play, and then his connection to the bigger Street Fighter story, and some implications for Street Fighter 6. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a ton of speculation going around about his identity, if we've seen him before, the role that he's going to play in this weird time-changing story that we know is beginning to be set up here at the end of 5. So, yeah, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I want to take your first early reactions. What did you think when you saw Luke?
He has Popeye forearms, and so I really want him to like eat spinach at some point because that's going to be great. But it
That's his
actually
V
looks like
skill
one of his
too, is he eats some spinach.
that would be great. One of his V triggers, his forearms actually light up with fire, so he's got a little bit of a kin thing going on. But like right off the bat, like I'm like, this is cool. Like MMA is really big right now. He looks so MMA. He looks like just like they took him right out, like combined like the 8 parts of MMA fighters, and you've got Luke. And
Hmm.
I'm like, but that's perfect because wrestling was so big back in the '90s, and that's why we got Zangief. They're like, let's make a Russian wrestler and all this kind of stuff. And like, boxing, Mike Tyson, Balrog, all that kind of stuff. Like, you want to take what people are knowing in pop culture and put that into your games because they're going to feel connection to it. And if that's going to be your lead character, which it kind of sounds like it's going to be our new protagonist, that kind of fits to me. So I'm excited. A lot of people, when we've talked about the future of Street Fighter, they're like, let's go in some new directions now. Let's not just have Ryu battling the Dark Hado like for the billionth time, right? Let's do some new stuff. Looks like we're getting some new stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
pretty jazzed about it.
Yeah, as they were setting him up, director Nakayama said Street Fighter V has been developed to pay homage to the past, but Luke will give us a glimpse of the future. He also said that Luke will be expanding the world of Street Fighter, specifically not Street Fighter V, just Street Fighter in general. And then Matsumoto said, we feel strongly that Luke will be a great addition to the game and that he has a bright future in the world of Street Fighter. So, if you're talking about the very last character coming into the game, this is not going to just be some bookend where it's like, oh, there he is, and then he's gone. I think that this is a huge jump into whatever they're going to do with Street Fighter 6. And while we know that Street Fighter
And,
3.
and John, just before you move on, I want to really highlight that these statements from the developers that are pre-recorded and stuff like that, these are not off-the-cuff statements.
Mm-mm.
We kind of got used to some off-the-cuff stuff with past FGC developers and other things where they may have said things that are kind of like, they're not meant to be taken as like but in the press release, exactly what you just said is also in the press release too. And it's like, it's in their messaging. It's very clear that Luke is going to be a huge part of Street Fighter's future, and apparently the current part too. I'm guessing that his story mode or whatever is going to segue really strongly into whatever comes next.
Yes, and we've been hearing already a lot of talk about him being the potential protagonist of Street Fighter 6 in some way. Like, and Street Fighter has done this before. We usually see Ryu as the main character and stuff is centered around him. Fair enough. But in Street Fighter 3, they took a total left turn and made Alex the main protagonist of the game. I mean, not the greatest character, but a very beloved character, and that worked out just fine, maybe. I don't know. They had to bring in more characters after that, but that's a sort of a different story. The point is, they've done other protagonists, and they've brought in brand new characters to be that protagonist before, so it would make enough sense. And hey, man, Capcom loves their blonde-haired, blue-eyed characters, don't they? Like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
other
and
one.
especially in this game. But yeah, I wanted to go back to Alex actually on that because if you look at the artwork for New Generation, that's the first Street Fighter 3. You're going to see Alex featured a ton in there. And then Capcom kind of realized that like Alex was popular, but like they should really be showcasing Ryu, I think, a bit more. And so as the games went on, like they did that. But we'll be showing this artwork here behind us, and you'll be able to see like how much like Alex was kind of featured initially. It was a big deal. And so as you're saying with Luke, we assume that that's going to be the same case and stuff like that. But again, it's we've kind of been there and done that with Ryu's story. Like expand it, do something with it, go back and revisit the stuff, time travel, all that. But something new, and if you do it really well, it's not a bad thing. It's like it goes to the Mortal Kombat movie. I liked Cole Young in that one. I know people were mixed on it, but it was something new. And if they add him into a future Mortal Kombat game, like he's a character I'd look at. Like I liked his character in there. I thought they did a good job with him. So I'm not opposed to something new mixed in with the old.
Also
right?
an MMA fighter, by the way. So
there you go. I mean, I have anything for MMA? Apparently, I do.
You should start watching it. I don't know if you watch it.
Yeah, I like Street Fighter instead. When people actually really get hurt, it kind of bothers me. So, but like punching a Kin player in the face and then having a rage kit does not bother me at all. That's perfectly acceptable.
So there's a lot of talk about the story, and like you said, the directors, the developers that have been showcasing and doing these summer updates have talked a lot about story, not only with the season 5, but how things are going to expand moving forward, and how they're really setting things up and caring about the moves that they make, which is a little bit different, I dare say, than how Street Fighter has been done in the past. They've certainly created stories. They've created really interesting ones, but they really haven't tethered themselves to being consistent, and that's part of that is just because of the way fighting games are with all these different characters. You make different endings and stuff like that, and which one's canon, which one's not. Blanca has 10 different backstories, those kind of things. But it seems that they're doing away with that, and they're getting a little bit closer to here's the cut and dry canon, and we're going to pay special attention to making things work. And with the development of season 5, we first one of our giant bombshells from the beginning was the fact that Rose has this huge like Mortal Kombat 9 redevelopment of the plot from what seems to be Street Fighter Alpha, that she's seeing this big catastrophe and she's gonna have to go back in time and fix things. And I'm assuming the big catastrophe has to do with Gil taking over, because we know that Street Fighter 3 chronologically happens after 5. And that might be something that she's seeing in the future, and like there's no way to stop it at this point, but there will be a way to stop it if we go back in time. All right, fair enough.
And my guess there is it's something to do with Gil, and she says G or Q or whatever, and they basically they start a new religion or cult or do something like that and basically take over the earth. And I think that's kind of what she's referring to.
Right.
And she doesn't see a good way of avoiding it, and Rose is not anywhere near Street Fighter 3. I don't even think she's mentioned. So that would be my guess. Yeah.
So, yeah. So now, what does this have to do with this weird new MMA fighter? Well, we don't know for sure. There's a bunch of rumors about other characters that he could be connected to, and I guess we could briefly go through a few of those really quick. One of them was, which has already been debunked, I think, by developers, was that he was the same Luke from Capcom. Was it All Stars or Fighting Jam or what?
Fighting Jam or something like that, yeah.
Because there's another character named Luke, blonde-haired. He was all about kicks, fairly different. It could have been an evolution of that, but they said flat out that's not what's going on. So not that one. Gunlock.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nakayama outright said this is an entirely new character, and he went out of his way to state that. And so the theories are interesting because we just talked about, Balrog being heavily based on, Mike Tyson, and you can look, you can throw a stone at pretty much any character and see the influences in there. I just talked about Rose.
Yes.
That's clearly Lisa,
and Capcom
Lisa
does it all the damn time, where they take old things.
Exactly.
You can get pieces of Abel when you look at just this presentation that we've had so far. Another big one that I've seen in, I think it was Ruffelmonger that I heard talking about it. I don't know if he was the originator of this or not. It's probably just Reddit. But Joe from Street Fighter 1 is a kickboxer. He is specifically French kickboxing. So Abel and Joe and blonde hair and oil and a lot of kind of stuff. But he likes star-shaped things. He's all about stars. He's got a star belt buckle. And in the initial presentation for Luke, it starts with this big old star, and he's got a whole bunch of stars on his tattoos and stuff like that. So sure, there's similarities there, but I don't think it really matters. It's like, who cares if it was Joe or not? Joe never, whatever. Fine. He also looks a lot like Logan Paul for that matter, but I don't think that was necessarily intentional in terms of the story. But A
So everyone that Velociraptor just pissed off, go ahead and comment below with what you think of John's comments about Joe doesn't matter, Logan Paul, all this kind of stuff. Go ahead and hit us in the comments on what you think of that. But John, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, piss
after
off the internet more.
do
Yeah.
well, leave your comments now and then, but leave them where they are, and then come back to them after this next part and tell me why you were wrong to leave those comments in the first place. Back to the story thing. Now, the developers said keep a lookout at Zeku, keep a lookout at G, and look at Byron Taylor and the Air Force Base for unknown or yet uncovered parts of the story in terms of how we're developing things for Street Fighter V in Season 5. Now, if you notice, Luke has dog tags. Byron Taylor is a military character, has dog tags, and this is going to connect to the realm of Byron Taylor, Guile, Nash. And I've seen a lot of people talk about how he's probably connected to Guile or Nash. They're much more prominent. Fair enough. But with this bit that they said, look at Byron Taylor, look at the Air Force Base. He's got these dog tags. There might be some kind of a connection that Luke has to Byron. What the specifics of that connection would be, I don't know. But Dakota, Dark Horse, he ran a story looking specifically at Byron not too long ago. I think it was towards the beginning of July or so. And he kind of tried to piece through what the heck Byron's story is. And he's not through it a lot, but in one, Guile's looking for Nash, and he's right there at the waterfall where Nash is actually being kept in that sarcophagus, as we know. And Byron tells him it's time to give up, like turn around, when he's right there at the waterfall. And you're like, is it coincidence that Byron intercepts him there when he's right at the end of this whole thing, or does Byron know? Something to wonder about. Another thing, Byron is pretty high up in this military organization and such. And so he's got a lot of power. Keep that in mind. And then the other thing is that he's both in his CFN profile and in some of the storyline, not all of it, by the way, but some of it, he's got this scar across his eye, and one of his eyes doesn't seem to be usable. Illuminati, one eye, top of the pyramid, anybody? So the idea here is maybe Byron Taylor might be one of these powerful figures for the good guys that ends up flip-flopping, goes Benedict Arnold, and sides with the likes of Guild, the Secret Society, Illuminati, and such. If that happens, that would be absolutely catastrophic for our good guys, right? Because now you've got however much power Taylor has going in the opposite direction, teaming up with Gil. That very well might have to do with the fact that the reason why Rose would need to go back in time. Maybe Byron ends up killing the likes of Guile and Nash again or something, who knows? And then maybe whatever his connection is with Luke, those dog tags, just not that two characters with dog tags would have an automatic connection, but maybe that's, hinting at this sort of metaphorical thing. Maybe he's the key to thwarting whatever it is that Byron does, or tipping off Rose or something like that. But to me, that seems to be the best picture for getting all of the pieces that we have so far to sort of fit in together. Maybe it's nothing, but that includes Byron. It would include Luke. It seems to fit, generally speaking, or it could fit into this bigger time travel storyline. Something catastrophic happens with someone really powerful that holds a lot of cards. That's where I'm at with this. What do you think of that, though?
The theory holds a lot of water because of what Capcom said, that Byron Taylor is important to the storyline, and no disagreements here for me. The only thing I can say is, if Byron Taylor is supposed to be an important part of your storyline, why the hell on Guile's stage is he doing that? Elaine from Seinfeld,
Nope.
how she starts dancing and stuff like that, and it just looks awful. And that's what they did to Byron Taylor. It's why did you guys do that? Everyone hates him now because he looks lame as hell on the stage doing that. And you don't have a badass military commander ever doing that. And in the history of film or anything, it's they don't dance like that. It looks awful. It makes him a goofball. And his socks with his shorts, and it's
He's
dude,
a character you love to hate.
Yes, what is this? But it is really heavily backed up what you said there. And of course, we know that they had bigger plans for Necalli, and they ended up scrapping it all kind of last minute. Visually, Necalli is an amazing character. He looks fantastic, but they just ended up making him a water sheep or whatever he is in the plot. And we know that he was supposed to be more of a Jekyll and Hyde character, right? And there's going to be kind of two sides to him. That would have been so much more interesting than what we got. And he just ended up being this cookie cutter thing that
They want to
eats
forget
cookies.
about, yeah, the
Yeah.
devour hours, the cookies.
But anyway, but the theory holds a lot of water because of the things we outlined there.
And then just briefly, there's not a, well, we could probably sit and talk for a while. I don't want to get too far into it, but we did see a lot of Luke's moves and his movements
Hmm.
and such. They didn't specify what his V triggers or V skills do, but we did see some action there. And he's just like a really powerful puncher that looks very satisfying. He shakes that screen when he does some of his more powerful attacks. He does have like a forward leaping front roll kick that's sort of like, I think there are other characters that have it even more, but like sort of Abel-esque kind of a thing with his wheel kicks and his rolls and stuff like that. He does appear to be a kickboxer, but doesn't throw a ton in the way of kicks. At least we didn't see them
Yeah.
in the trailer. But he does look cool. He looks like he has some really good anti-fireball tech with those punches that send like projectile like blasts full screen, and they're very
Those were
quick.
cool.
And that
Yeah.
was
Very
that I
cool.
think that was the coolest part of his trailer, was that like
Yeah.
how satisfying it looks to hit those kinds of things. So something of a brawler, probably wants to just get in and just beat the crap out of you, sort of a thing. But looking forward to seeing what comes next. Not a huge fan of his hair that looks kind of like messy, and like there's little strands and then shaved in certain parts. It's kind of goofy, but it's not a deal breaker, at least not for me. MMA is sort of generic, but fine, fair enough. It's in right now, makes enough sense. So, man, it could have been Sea Viper. It could have been one of these crossover characters that we've been talking about, like Kyo or Terry or someone like that. But Capcom kind of got us with a brand new character that
Yeah.
was not DiCaprio. Now, the jury's still relatively out on this guy, but so far, so good, and it's nice to see. So I'm overall happy with Luke, intrigued to see where things go with both his design and his style, and it does seem to be like they're going to be betting a lot on him in terms of making him a very central focal point and important to the story moving forward to the franchise. So cool, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, a lot of his attacks, as you mentioned, are done with punches. Didn't have much in the way of kicks. He's coming in November, and that means that Street Fighter V is going to finish with 45 characters. And for those keeping score, Ultra Street Fighter 4 had 44. Got one more, and that one was Luke. So, but anyway, our Luke. But I think Capcom is lining up Luke for something in Street Fighter 6, but I also think it's going to depend on how he is received here.
Hmm.
If the community universally hates him, which doesn't seem to be the case so far, but if he's released and he does not pick up any steam, we just talked about Capcom changing plans with Nikali. I don't think Luke is necessarily a lock for everything we're outlining here, but I think it is a definite possibility from their messaging. So
Well, yeah. Yeah, I do think that they're probably setting things up so that they're going to make sure that it doesn't become a Necalli sort of a situation, although they could do that. But if any of this stuff with like, the storyline and the connections are true, they've kind of would be digging themselves into a trench that I don't think that they could just so easily navigate away from. But that's because they're in a lot of ways under new management, so I don't expect them to take a lot of the same paths they have before.
the Ryoso Tsuchimoto is very smart and very good at what he does. The fact that Monster Hunter became the top-selling Capcom IP ever, and he's the main person behind it, is ridiculous. So he's a very, very, very talented person. And Nakayama, in the other producer,
Matsumoto.
gosh, his name Matsumoto. Thank you. Was slipping me. They're all very talented and very smart. I love these presentations. So I have more faith in them right now, but. And every single time I've had faith in Capcom, it's like